Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. Hey, and welcome back to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and today we are joined by Dr. Gary Sanchez. He is an international speaker, author, and dentist, and he is best known as Dr. Y. He is the founder and CEO of the Y Institute and the creator of the proprietary YOS discovery tool, which helps people uncover their personal driving motivations in under 5 minutes. From a successful dentist to now helping hundreds of thousands discover their why, Dr. Sanchez's journey shows the impact of understanding and living your why. He believes that true successes and fulfillment happen when we find a better way to align who we are and what we do. Gary Sanchez, welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast.
Awesome, Madeline. I've been looking forward to this ever since you and I talked maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more than that. We were talking about doing this, and now we're finally doing it.
I know. I'm so excited to have you on. Thank
Well,
you so much for being here, Gary.
And I have 2 daughters, obviously. So
Yes.
I am a girl dad.
Yes, you are. And your company helps fathers all over the world discover their why. And I would love to chat a little bit more about your work behind the Y Institute, why you built it, and for any of the dads listening who haven't heard of it, what their benefits are of discovering their why.
Yeah, so I developed the software tool. It's called the YOS Discovery, WHY.OS Discovery. And essentially, it gives you the language, the words, to tell the world exactly who you are, why you do what you do, how you bring your why to life, and what it is people can count on from you. And so forever, that whole concept of why has been a very challenging thing to figure out. You know, you were told, oh, you got to go sit in a dark cave for a week, or you got to walk by yourself through Portugal, or you got to hire a bunch of therapists to figure out what your why is. Well, I've now made it possible where anybody can discover, understand, use their why, how, and what. And it only takes about 7 to 8 minutes to be able to do it. And it uncovers for you how to talk about yourself. So, for example, in my case, my why is to find a better way and share it. Everything in my life has been about finding better ways to do things and then sharing them with the world. How I do that is by making things clear and understandable, first for myself and then for others. Ultimately, what I bring is a simple solution. So I take complex things and simplify them so that they're useful and doable for others. So the YOS Discovery is a better, clear, and simple way for you to know you, and gives you the words to tell the world who you are. And so it's great for dads to understand themselves, even better for daughters to understand who they are. So we can dive deeper into that. That's kind of the very quick version of what it is. I was a dentist. I never set out to do this. I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I think I'm going to create some software to help people figure out their why. I was trying to figure it out myself. And when I did, I figured out the process for helping others. And then I just started doing it for free for many, many years. For anybody that would let me, started to notice patterns and trends and similarities, figured out there's only 9 different whys. And then over time, I was able to turn that into a software tool where now everybody can have access to it instead of just the few that happen to talk to. That was a very quick version.
Well, thank you, Gary. I had the pleasure myself of taking the quiz and finding my why, and I was pleasantly surprised at how accurate and detailed everything was. So thank you for putting that together.
Let's talk about you. Hold on. When you're not getting off easy, we're going to talk about you so that your audience gets to know you from not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And so I'll go through it with you.
Okay.
So for the listeners, Madeline's why, like mine, is to find a better way and share it. So she is always trying to improve things. She goes to bed thinking about a better way and wakes up thinking about a better way, and you can't turn it off and you're rarely satisfied. Is that right?
So accurate.
Yeah. And how she does that is by making sense of the complex and challenging. She is a very good problem solver. You can dump all your stuff onto Madeline and she will very quickly synthesize it down, figure out what's keeping you stuck, and help you move forward. Does that feel right?
Yes, definitely.
Ultimately, what she brings is a way to contribute, add value, have an impact on the lives of others. She wants to be that pebble that starts the ripple effect that goes on in other people's lives, because when they do better, she feels like she's doing better. Does that feel right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So her why is better way, her how is make sense, and her what is contribute. Find a better way, solve the problem, help other people have a bigger impact. When she's doing that, life doesn't get much better than that for her. Feel
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's a really good point is when you're living in alignment with your why, it's that, like, flow state and peak happiness and fulfillment, and I'm certainly feeling that all with this podcast and what I'm doing supporting dads with daughters. That's that contribute piece of it, I think, and making an impact on the world. That's always been something that I've wanted to do ever since I was a little girl. I knew I was gonna make the world a better place. And I really feel like this is my path to doing so. And this quiz really helped confirm everything that I felt. But it was really nice to see it really clear and laid out in front of me.
Yeah, it gives you the language. What many people have a sense or a feeling
Hmm.
of what it might be, right? But sort of kind of thinking that maybe you might know your why, not very valuable. Having the words to actually say it, super valuable. Gives you the
Hmm.
confidence, the clarity, the certainty about who you are and what you bring to the world. And so, like what you said, Madeline, was if what you choose to do with your life is in alignment with your why, your how, and your what, you will love what you do. You will have passion for what you do. And passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams. Without passion, you quit. Without passion, you give up. With passion, you persevere. So the Girl Dad podcast is a way for you to find better ways by interviewing people that have already lived it, find solutions to problems that are very challenging in bringing up daughters, and help the listeners have a bigger impact by sharing this through your podcast. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you're doing it. And, and so you
And it feels
will you
good.
have
Yeah.
passion for it, right?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like work at all. Yeah.
You'd do it all day long for free if you could, and you probably have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. And so that's a really important thing for the listeners to understand. If you're the father of a daughter, would it be valuable for a teenage girl to know that she has a gift and know what it is before she starts to date, before
Yes.
she picks a career, before she picks a spouse or a significant other? Would it be
Yes.
valuable for them to have that confidence?
Absolutely.
What kind of decisions might they make or not make if they knew? And
Hmm.
that's why it's so critical. I have two daughters. One went through high school and college, not clear on her why because I hadn't figured it out yet. Took 6 years to get through, changed majors multiple times. Wasn't the best experience. The other one was very clear on who she was. Direct, knew exactly what she wanted, had an amazing experience through college, directly to her dream job, and she's living that now. And so it was such an interesting contrast because I got to see it play out in real life. One who
Hmm.
didn't really know and one who was very clear. So that's what I'm here. If I could boil all this down, Madeline, into 4 words, here's the 4 words: who first, then what? Figure out who you are first. Then, what do you want to do? Then, what is your passion? Then, what is your direction? All of that becomes so much easier if you figure out who you are first. So if you're a dad asking your daughter, well, so honey, what do you want to do with your life? How would I possibly know? Mike,
Yeah.
how much experience did you have, Madeline, between the years of 0 and 17 to be able to make that kind of a decision?
Right. Not a
None, right?
lot.
You were interested in what's on your phone, you were interested in what your friends are doing, you're interested in the basketball game or the weekend or the party or the whatever's going on. And now I come to you and say, "Madeline, what would you like to do with the rest of your life?" How how am I supposed to answer that? "Well, go find your passion."
Mhm.
"That sounds great, Dad. How do I do that?" "I don't know how you do it, but go do it." "Oh, that's super helpful. Thank you." Right? And that's what most of us go through.
Mhm.
So there's that saying, you are most able to help the person you once were, right? So in my case, the question I hated the most was when my parents' friends would come over to our house and ask me that exact question. "So, what do you want to do with your life?" "I have no idea. I'm just got done playing a basketball game. I have no idea." "Where do you want to go to college?" "Well, I'm not sure. How do I make that choice?" What do you want to major in?" "No idea." So I didn't have a way to make that choice, to make that decision. I didn't really have anyone to help me, right? You have college counselors that tell you what they think you're good at or what you might have an aptitude towards, but not really how to find something that's in alignment with who I am, because I didn't know who I was. Here's what happens, Madeline, to most people. They make a choice when they don't know who they are. They take that path, they get good at it, and then they feel trapped by the life they built around that choice they made.
Mhm.
And now they're stuck. And that's what happened to me. And if I had known at a young age who I was, who I am, I could have made so many different choices that would have been in alignment with me, but I didn't know.
Mhm.
And most of the dads that are listening to this know exactly what I'm talking about. Because what happens next is you start to accumulate things. Our house, spouse, kids, maybe spouses, all that stuff. And now I have a lot of overhead and a lot of responsibilities. And even if I don't like what I'm doing, I can't change. I'm stuck
Mhm.
until my kids grow up. And then I can finally make a choice that's in alignment with me. But now my runway is very short because I'm 45, 50, 55, 60 years old. So the younger you are, when you figure out who you are, the longer the runway you have to be who you were meant to be.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
The younger we can help our daughters figure out who they are, the longer they have to be that, to live in alignment with it, to do what they were meant to do. And that's when it becomes so exciting when you see your daughters just love what they're doing. I'm sure your dad is so excited watching you do this.
Yeah, definitely he is.
He feels your passion. I felt your passion the day I met you. It's just you can feel it. And so being able for you to live it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, most young girls have to go through trial and error and, just life experiences, lots of life experiences to really figure out what that is if they ever figure it out. And this is a wonderful tool to almost use a front of the line pass to really figure out who they are and what is important to them. And you mentioned kind of a hypothetical life path that happens to a lot of people, including yourself, where you go down this one direction that you think is right and you're good at it. So you kind of stay in it and it's hard to remove yourself from that path. But there's also other paths that are even worse where someone goes down a path without knowing their why and maybe they're not excelling at it and they're losing confidence in themselves and who they are and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're lacking skills or anything. It's just that they're in the wrong direction. And if they do know more about themselves earlier on, they can avoid those kinds of feelings and emotions and stuckness, even though, it creates lessons and everything. There's positive meaning behind every path. But I think as a daughter, when you're trying to figure out yourself, it's a challenge. And trying to figure out college and your life path, like you said, it's so overwhelming. And I think about my littlest sister, who is wonderful, and she has a wide range of skills, but they're not as traditional as the college to career path. So she, went to college and didn't have the best time academically and fulfillment wise. And so she ended up switching paths, really doing a lot of reflecting, coming home, thinking a lot about her life and what she's good at and what she wants to do. And she just got her esthetician license, and she is thriving in that department. She gave me a facial recently just to test it out, and I was so impressed with her touch, her energy. Like, this is just something that she is so gifted at that, had she known maybe more about herself and her desires to use hands-on skills, she could have avoided some of the sadness that came with feeling like she wasn't excelling at something and that maybe she was having low confidence in certain subjects. And now she knows that that was just the wrong path. But, to your point, I think the earlier that young women can discover more about themselves and their purpose, the better it is for their mental health and their trajectory and just kind of setting themselves up for success in general.
Yeah, you're right on. And like we said, the younger you are when you figure out who you are, the longer the runway you have to be who you were meant to be. And so it's so great that your sister went through this at this age, that
Mhm.
she didn't pick something that your parents would like, or that her
Mhm.
friends would say is cool, and spent 20 years doing that only to realize that isn't what I should have done. And
Mhm.
so it's great to kind of hit rock bottom early. When I was growing up, one of my best friends, um, at about age 20, started getting into partying, like heavy partying, and didn't go to college, nightclub scene, the whole thing, until he,
Mhm.
about age 23, hit rock bottom, living in his car, didn't have any money. And then he got into personal growth and trying to figure himself out, started reading all the books that we all know about: Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all those books. Turned his life around at 23, figured out who he was, got a mentor, got into real estate, and now he's like the top commercial real estate guy in New Mexico, where I'm from. So his runway has been from age 23 to 63. 40 years he's been on the right path. Whereas a lot of people go off to college, pick something that their parents would be proud of, pick something to justify that they went, get involved in that, get good at it, spend all those years there. I was a dentist for 32 years. That's painful to think about. I mean, luckily, it allowed me to have a great lifestyle. What
Mhm.
would have been even worse is picking something that didn't give you a lifestyle, and that would have been even more challenging. What if at 23 I had realized what I wanted to do, done that at that age, and then I'd have had 40 years? Because now my runway is much shorter to do what I really was put on earth to do. So your why, how, and what is what you were put on earth to do. You were put here to find better ways, solve problems, and help other people have a bigger impact. And if you get to do that, you're going to love it.
Mhm.
You will have unlimited energy for doing it. And that's why it's so important to know it, because otherwise you just don't know. You have this massive menu of options and opportunities growing every day, more things you could do. How the heck do you pick one? You got an unlimited number, and I'm supposed to pick one? Really? How do I do it? And for you and I with the why a better way, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. Which one's better? Which one's better? I don't know which one's better. So it's very important to be able to do this starting with. So the steps are who first? Who are you first? Really get that down. Who are you? Then, when you know who you are, then look at what is going to be your passion. What are the options that are out there that will allow you to live your why, how, and use that as your filter.
Mhm.
If you're thinking about something, put it through the filter, like in your case. Will this allow me to find better ways? Will this allow me to solve problems? And will this allow me to help other people? If yes, okay, that's a good one. If no, don't go there. You could, but you'll run out of energy. So recently, Madeline, I've been working with these different groups of billionaires in different cities. And they're in the exact same spot as someone who's almost like a teenager, because they have unlimited opportunities, unlimited options. They don't need the money. They built their businesses where the business doesn't need them, doesn't really even want them to show up. They can't really go home because their significant other doesn't want them at home, because this is my domain is the home. So they don't really have anywhere to go, and they have all this time and money and energy and knowledge, but don't know where to apply it.
Hmm.
So that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking them through a process of, let's figure out your next chapter. What's your
Mhm.
next chapter that you're going to love, that you're going to have passion for? Not just make money because you don't need the money. What are you going to love doing? And so there's a process we take them through for helping them clarify that, test it, and then start doing it. Same thing can happen for daughters and sons, but daughters, as we're talking about here, that are in
Mhm.
their teens and trying to figure it out. It's such a hard thing to figure out. So something you mentioned this earlier, and I was thinking about it. One of the biggest fears of a girl dad, at least for this girl dad, was, who's going to come into my daughter's life that's going to influence them? How influenceable are they? And I always worried about the knuckleheads that came along, because there's plenty of them. And I saw it happen with some of my friends' daughters. It's one gal that was a cheerleader for the University of New Mexico gets hooked up with this idiot who gets her started on meth and all these things. And just
Mm.
right off a cliff. And I saw it as a dentist. I saw that because I saw these kids grow up. I saw what
Mhm.
happened to them, and I always worried about it. But if your daughter knows herself, is clear on herself, is clear on her gift, is clear on her why, her how, her what, and she knows who she is, very hard to get them off course. Very hard. If they're lost and have no idea who they are, much easier to get them off course. Does that make sense? Did you see this with some of your friends?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I always think of it like your self-trust and knowing who you are builds your confidence, and self-trust and confidence help build this force field that daughters have as they're navigating life. And with that force field, it blocks off people who they know are no good for them, whether it's a partner or a friend. And obviously there's learning lessons, intermixed, but it's not to the extreme like you were mentioning. And it's this trust of the direction that you're going. So through understanding yourself, you build this force field of trust and self-confidence, and you understand who should be let through. And there's all kinds of other factors that contribute, the way that your relationship with your dad teaches you how you should be respected by other men. Like that's a huge one too. But for the purpose of this, conversation about understanding yourself, yeah, it's essential.
It's funny. I had a conversation with my daughter this weekend. She was visiting. I'm in Austin, where I have one daughter lives here and the other daughter lives in Denver, and so she was here in town. The one that lives in Denver and just got married, maybe 6 months ago. And so when she was growing up, this is the one that wasn't as clear on her why, and so she was always mad at me that I didn't let her do everything she wanted to do. Well, when
Mhm.
I have a kid, they're going to be able to stay out late and they're going to be able to do all these things, right? That was her thinking. So I asked her this weekend, you remember when you said you were going to allow your daughter to do whatever, have a phone at any age, watch whatever she wanted, stay out as late as she wanted? How are you feeling about that now? She's like, no, that is not what I'm going to do at all. Not a chance. Do you think social media has been a positive or a negative for girls?
I think it's been a huge negative. I read the book The Anxious Generation, and it scared me a lot, to be honest. The stats of how social media has affected young women is really frightening. I think social media has other benefits. Like, I'm not gonna say it's 100% bad, but by and large, when you look at the numbers of depression and anxiety and self-isolation that it has caused, it's really staggering. So, yeah, that would be my answer is negative.
And from a dad's perspective, it used to be terrifying you'd have to get up the nerve to pick up the phone to call a girl to ask her out on a date. And so you had to go through a lot of mental gyrations. Do I
Mhm.
really want to call them? Well, what if they say no? All the stuff that goes on. And now all they do is swipe, or text. Hey, what are you doing tonight? There's no,
Mhm.
there's no, accountability, there's no fear, there's no worry, there's no nothing. It's just a volume game,
Mhm.
which I don't think has worked out well for girls and young women, and
Agreed.
especially as a dad. So how do you I like what you said about the force field or the shield that you can put around yourself. That's a great way to talk about it. What is it you need to create this force field that you can allow yourself to get to an age where you actually understand what's going on? So, when it came time for our daughters to go to college, we were trying to think about where would they like to go? Where would we like them to go? And I saw a lot of my patients' kids go to San Francisco, go to LA, go to the big cities, go to New York, and saw what happened to them when they were thrown into this fire pits of so much going on there that they're 17, 18 years old and they're into the a lot of extra stuff they had to deal with. So our daughters both daughters ended up at Colorado State, which is up in Fort Collins. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Mhm. I had a friend who went there, but I haven't been.
It's a great community, really a
Yeah.
great community. And it gave them a chance to get a little bit older, experience some things, but not like everything.
Mhm.
And then they could start experiencing more and more and more when they were clearer. It's like not throwing them right into the fire, but letting them experience some things along the way. And now they're ready for whatever that comes that way. And they know they're so confident in themselves that that's not going to throw them off. So that might be something for, girl dads to think about. How do you let them grow up fast enough and slow enough to be able to understand the world, but not have to experience everything all at once?
Mhm.
Seems like it was a positive. What's your take on that?
I like it. I think it really comes down to knowing your daughter and helping her know herself. There's a lot of real pressures that daughters feel when it's and sons, I'm sure, but I mean, I remember needing to get into all the best colleges and like really stressing myself out over making sure I passed all my exams with flying colors and, got the best grades and I got a 5.0. Like I was really high pressure, and it worked out for me because I kind of wanted that like, I thrived in those conditions a little bit. Now I'm, like, learning how to unlearn some of that and be more relaxed. But, at the time, I think that was good for me. I think going to UCLA was a good experience, but I think in general, I put that pressure on myself, right? My parents did not tell me, "You need to go to UCLA," and I think that's what you're talking about is there's this throwing your kids into the fire and saying, "Hey, you should go here or do this." It can be overwhelming for a child that maybe is already overwhelmed or maybe is not mentally ready for high challenge environments and big cities and everything that comes along with it. So I love the idea of just knowing your child and knowing what's best for them and helping them know themselves. I mean, that's kind of the theme of this
Yes.
conversation in general. But yeah, a lot of children could benefit from smaller schools or schools that are in great environments, like Colorado in general. My sister went to Boulder. She had the best time because it was laid back. She's really outdoorsy and she thrived there. And my other younger sister, she went to Utah for a little bit and it had a lot of the things that she liked. You know, she likes to ski, she likes to climb or like hike, but college in general just wasn't really the right path for her. And so, she kind of learned that and pivoted, but and my parents were supportive throughout, but I think there are a lot of pressures on children to go a certain path. And like we've been talking about, it really comes down to knowing what's best for them and them knowing what's best for themselves.
So let's talk about this for a minute. Really, what you just said was so important, and that is, as a parent, if you don't know who your child really is, then what we typically do is say, "Well, here's what I would do." Well, here's what I would do. Well, they don't care what you would do. They want to know what they should do based on who they are. So that's why it's so valuable to not only know your own why, how, and what, but know that of your child,
Mhm.
because then you can speak their language. So in your case, we said your why is better way, your how is make sense, and your what is contribute. So your parents could talk to you from the perspective of who you are, how you see the world, guide you in the way that you see it and what will work for you versus what worked for them,
Mhm.
so that it will be in alignment with who is Madeline versus who am I, and let me tell you what would do. So
Right.
that the types of conversations that I can have with my daughters is so much more valuable, is so much more impactful because I know who they are and how they think, what's going to work for them, what's going to resonate with them, what's going to make them feel heard, what's going to make them feel valued and understood.
Mhm.
And those are different conversations than here's what I would do.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Yes, and feeling heard, valued, and understood are core needs of women, so daughters, wives, but making sure that you as a father can provide those feelings to a daughter, I mean, that is so huge. So huge.
When they were growing up, we just had this conversation. I mean, just last us, we were just sitting around talking about this. And, when they were young, my goal wasn't to be their friend. I was not here to be their buddy. I was here to be their dad. Now I'm their buddy. But that time in their life, I didn't need to be their friend.
Mhm.
I didn't care if they liked me. I didn't care. I mean, of course I did. Of course I did. But I mean, that wasn't my number one priority. My number one priority
Right.
was to protect them and guide them and help them. But along the way, there were conversations we had to have that wasn't about being their buddy. They
Mhm.
didn't need a buddy. They had a lot of other buddies. They needed a parent, and those are different things.
Yeah.
So once they got past a certain age, now we've become very close. And one of the things I'm most proud of anything that I could ever accomplish, is the relationship that we have with our kids
Mhm.
and who they turned out to be, because they're so much fun to be with. And now we're friends. And there's times when now we're still parents, but we're friends. Whereas when they're in their teenage years, they don't need a buddy. They don't need me to be their friend. They don't need they need to have some structure and someone that is there for them in a way that, helps to keep them out of trouble. They're going to make
Mhm.
mistakes. For sure, they're going to make mistakes, but you don't want to make a life-changing mistake. Those are totally different things. So when you were growing up, would you say that was there a time when your dad was not your friend and more your dad?
Yeah, definitely. I remember a few times, but in general, or a few specific times, but I know in general there were a lot of no's that I wanted to be yeses at the time from my mom and my dad. Usually it'd be kind of a collective effort. I would ask them together, and I'd usually like come down and, they'd be on the couch or something, and I'd give a proposal for something. And then if it was a no, then I'd be totally bummed. But one thing that I really appreciated is they always explained their no's. So I knew why they were saying no to something. And it was usually very rational and came from a place of love. It came from a place of protection, and we're doing this for you. And they stood firm. We know you want to do this, or we know you're going to be disappointed, but this is something that we're doing because we love you. And yeah, one day you'll understand too, but for now, you're just going to have to deal with it. So it was always, again, from a place of love and protection. So yes, they did that. And to your point, now we're friends. Like, I love my mom and dad. We have very dynamic relationships. I, have worked with my dad, so we have kind of this work relationship. We all play golf as a family, so we have like a sports relationship. We just started playing tennis as a family too. So there's a lot of different dynamics that we have, but at the end of the day, we love each other so much, and we are all friends.
See, that's awesome. And I'm sure that's one of the things they're most proud of.
Mhm.
How you turned out and the relationship that you have with them.
And my
Because
sisters, yeah.
and your sister. Yeah, and your sisters.
Yeah.
You have 2 sisters, right?
2 younger sisters. Yep, best friends.
Yeah, and so along the way, it's been, a journey, right, of not always trying to please
Mhm.
your kids and always trying to see what would be the best thing for them along that journey. It's funny because when I think backwards in time so I'm 63 now. My 63-year-old self looking at my 53-year-old self, thinking, man, my 53-year-old self didn't know much. And then my 53-year-old self looking at my 43-year-olds and backwards and backwards and backwards, you're like, gosh, can't believe I even was able to function way back then. What little I knew. And so as you go along on your journey, that's the fun part is what you don't know and what's coming along, and then looking backwards and thinking, man, I sure thought I knew everything back then, but I didn't. So
Mhm.
how old are you now?
28.
28. So let's go back to your 18-year-old self. What was your 18-year-old self like compared to your 28-year-old self?
I mean, so young. But yeah. I mean, still really, really ambitious, very high stress. I got shingles when I was 22, so I feel like it was like peak around that time where I was just go, go, go all the time. But just didn't know not even close to as much that I know now, and I know I'm just still scratching the surface, but,
Yeah. So imagine your 38-year-old self looking back at your 28-year-old self.
yeah.
And all the things that you're pretty sure of right now, when you get to 38, you'll look back and you go, gosh, dang, thought I knew that. And now I
Mhm.
realize I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And it
Mhm.
just keeps going that way. So I'm sure my 73-year-old self's going to look at my 63-year-old self and say, man, you don't know anything. I think the older you get, the more you realize you just don't know. The thing, so you
Yeah.
go from knowing everything in your teens,
Yeah.
knowing nothing as you go along, at the end. But it's a fun journey. But, again, if this whole YOS thing, if we break it down into, the one word problem that it is the solution to, it's the solution to the one word problem of uncertainty. So if you're listening to this and you have kids or yourself, you feel uncertain about who you are. I don't know who I am. I don't know how to figure it out. I don't know what direction I should go. I don't know how to find my passion. I don't know how to find my purpose. I don't know what my direction should be. I just don't know. Then the place to start is figuring out who you are. And there are a lot of ways to do it. I happen to have one. There are others. You can go sit in a dark cave for a week and see what happens. You could walk across Portugal by yourself and see what happens. Go backpacking for a year. That people do it that way. You don't have to, but if if what I really would love for everybody to take away from this episode is spend the time to figure out yourself first. Step one, figure out you. Don't worry about anything else. Figure out you, then figuring out your what becomes so much easier. So much, it gives you that filter, the lens to look at options, to look at your life, to look at your choices, so that you have a way to make a decision that's going to be in alignment with you. So you don't waste the time, the years, the energy building the wrong thing that's not your life. That make sense?
Absolutely. And the same goes for your girls, setting them up for
Yes.
success by finding their why.
Yes. So what we'll do, I'm going to give you a link when we're done that you can put in your show notes that your audience can go find their why for free. It's not free online, but they'll be able to start with their why. It won't give them everything, but it'll get them going to find their why. And then if they want to add their how and what and all the messaging and all that stuff, they can do that. It's not expensive. It's invaluable, but not a lot of money. So we'll give you a code that you can use to give it away to your audience for free.
Thank
And
you, Gary.
so,
That's so generous.
yeah, because I have that special place in my heart for sure for daughters and fathers of daughters, because I am one. And as a dentist, I was surrounded by women because that's primarily in the office. And I especially have a soft place for single moms just because I see what they go through. But in particular, if we can help high school girls understand themselves, the choices they make will be so different because they know they have a gift. They have their force field up. I love that. They have their shields up to be able to get through that. High school is not easy, right?
No.
It's not easy. I saw my daughters go through it. So we can give them that force field, that shield to go through high school. I got me. I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I bring. I know what my gifts are. I know where I'm going. I know where my passion is, and you're not going to sidetrack me, dude or guy or gal, whatever. And you're not going to sidetrack. And I want to see that happen. It's so fun to see people that are doing it, right? They're on it. We can help them do that. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Gary. This has been an amazing episode. You've provided so much value to the audience, and I love what you're doing and why you're doing it. So, thank you again for being here.
yeah, thank you so much for doing this podcast, and thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for tuning into Girl Dad, the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow Girl Dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.